House will come back into order. The clerk will ring the bell. All members will report back to the floor of the House. Had a lunch break, but we need to go through the calendar with as much dispatch as we can. We have a number of committees that have meetings this afternoon. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
The following three resolutions are being read and referred to the Committee on Rules. Honoring the life and memory of C. Glenn Hartley and inviting his wife and children to be recognized by the House. Congratulating Christopher and Ginger Martin upon being honored with the 2015 National Outstanding Young Farmer Award, inviting them and their two children to be recognized by the House. Congratulating and commending Boy Scout Troop 463 of Sandy Springs, Georgia on its 50th anniversary, inviting members of the troop to be recognized by the House. Commending Gamma Psi, a chapter of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, and recognizing March 11, 2015 is Recognition Day at the state capitol. Recognizing and commending Ms. Lauren Guthis for her outstanding contributions to public education in the state of Georgia. Recognizing and commending the Consul General of Canada in Atlanta, members of the Legislative Assembly from the province of Saskatchewan, SaskPower, the Petroleum Technology Research Center, and Southern States Energy Board. Recognizing and commending Ms. Connie Gurley, RN, extraordinary nurse and outstanding Georgia citizen. Commending the Georgia Legislative Women's Caucus Service Leadership Award recipients, and recognizing March as Women's History Month at the state capitol. Recognizing and commending Bethel AME Church on the occasion of its 145th anniversary. Commending Kennesaw Mountain High School's Justin Rivera for winning the Class 6A Wrestling State Championship, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. The House will come back to order. House will come to order. We're about to go on to the rules calendar. We're about to go back to the rules calendar. The chair is going to ask the clerk to read that portion of Rule 133 that has to do with the obligation of members to vote when on the floor. Mr. Clerk will read.
Rule 133. When the question is put, every member within the chamber shall vote unless the member is immediately and particularly interested therein, or unless the member is excused by the House.
Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 353. House Bill 353.
House Bill 353 by Representative Rogers, the 29th, to be entitled an act to amend Part 1A of Article 7, Chapter 3, Title 20, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to non-public post-secondary educational institutions. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Higher Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rogers to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you House Bill 353. This bill is being brought on behalf of the executive branch and the new executive director. If you haven't met her, she's out in the on the ropes right now, Miss Karina Robinson. The non-public post-secondary education institution is something that's very important in this state. It deals with the regulation of private, public, for-profit colleges. And it's updating the code, which has not been updated since 1991. On your desk, everybody has some talking points. It should explain the bill. Mr. Speaker, is pretty much cut and dry. Be glad to try to answer any questions should anybody have any.
You don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 353 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 353. The ayes are 152, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 386.
House Bill 386 by Representative Nimmer, the 178th, be titled an act to amend Title 32 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to repeal Chapter 12 relating to the Georgia Coordinating Committee for Rural and Human Services Transportation. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Government Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Nimmer to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 386 simply takes away the mandate of producing a report from the Georgia Coordinating Committee for Rural and Human Services. That's the findings of the committee that all the cost-saving measures have been reported over the past several years, and there's no need to further the reporting act. With that, Mr. Speaker, I would ask for favorable consideration of the House.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 386 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 386, the ayes are 157, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 492. House Bill 492.
House Bill 492 by Representative Jaspers, the 11th. To be titled, an act to amend Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to offenses against public order and safety, so as to revise provisions regarding carrying in unauthorized locations. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Jaspers to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, today I offer House Bill 492. This is cleanup to last year's House Bill 60. I was asked during the winter to relook at some issues from different groups related to the renewal of the Georgia weapons license. We met with Probate Judges Council, local judges, to fix their issue. I think the fixes we have will make it clear and easier for everyone. I want to draw your attention to three or four different clarification items. On line 19, you'll see this 4 times in the bill. In 1611-130 is a list of groups of people who are exempted from prohibitions where they can carry. Some of these folks thought they were not exempt due to House Bill 60. We don't agree with that, but in the effort to work it out, Legislative Council helped me with the language to ensure it. On line 43, we're looking at renewals, clarifying the 90 days before and 30 days after where you can get your renewal license. Line 76 clarifies the armed forces language. I want to thank Representative Coomer with the correct language we needed there. In line 105, we clarified the fingerprint requirements, that you have to be fingerprinted on the first license and not thereafter, but your background will always be checked every time you renew via non-fingerprint based check. Same information is collected for the judge to use in making their decision. In line 135, in an effort to strengthen reporting of the revocation of a license to those who have committed crimes that would cause their license to revoke, we added a how-to section for judges on this part. Line 169, section 6, ACCG and GMA asked us for this addition to allow them to regulate their volunteers as the carrying of weapons while serving in the capacity of a volunteer. We did that. That's it. You can breathe easier now. It's rare that we have everyone on the same page as we did with this bill, with Georgia Carry, ACCG, GMA, and our probate judges agreeing on what we have here. I ask for your favorable considerations for this bill, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I don't know if this has ever happened on a weapons bill, but there are no questions. So I'm going to ask you to leave the well.
I will leave the well quickly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection to the previous questions being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 492 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 492. The ayes are 153, the nays are 3. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The Rules Committee this morning fixed a supplemental calendar for today. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 253. House Bill 253.
House Bill 253 by Representative Ballinger, the 23rd. To be entitled an act to amend Chapter 39A of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to real estate appraisers so as to change certain provisions relating to requirements for the establishment and maintenance of a real estate appraisal management company. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Regulated Industries. That committee recommends this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Ballinger to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of HB 253. It's a really simple one-page bill. It just basically allows for real estate appraisers within the state of Georgia to appeal to our real estate commissioner. And I'll be happy to yield to any questions.
You don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 253 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 253. The ayes are 158, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 477.
House Bill
477.
House Bill 477 by Representative Jones, the 47th. To be entitled an act to amend Code Section 32-7-4 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to procedures for disposition of property formerly acquired for public road purposes but later abandoned. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill was brought to me by one of my cities, and they needed clarification on an issue regarding the disposition of an abandoned road. In 2010, I had a bill that provided for more flexibility to local governments for road abandonment. This takes the second aspect of that process, which is the disposition as it pertains narrowly to a subdivision with a duly formed homeowners association. It also has a provision in there brought to me by Chairman Wendell Willard that clarifies what is in fact utilized in practice now, that when a new city is created, that the roads contained within it are in fact owned and maintained by that road, by that city, unless they have an intergovernmental agreement with the county. That's all that the bill does, and I'd be happy to take questions, Mr. Speaker.
Don't appear to have any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 477? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 477. The ayes are 163, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 255. House Bill 255.
House Bill 255 by Representative Chokus of the 138th. Be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 50. The official code of Georgia annotated relating to general authority, duties, and procedure relative to state purchasing. This bill having been referred to Committee on State Properties, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Chokus to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring before you all today House Bill 255. Basically, this House bill ensures that Georgia lumber is used in state buildings paid for by Georgia citizens. The basic principle here is that Georgia-grown products, including wood and wood fiber, should not be locked out of any markets in this state, especially those markets that are funded by the Georgia taxpayers. It basically codifies the executive order under Governor Nathan Deal, dated August 10th, 2012. The handouts didn't quite make it out in time, but you'll be getting some of the handouts with the executive order, and also with letters of support. What I wanted to say about the grading systems. Under current law, state agencies are required to use Georgia forest products when constructing and repairing state buildings. The first part of HB 255 merely clarifies the definitions. It defines green building standards, it defines state building, and it defines construction and repairs. It expands the list of acceptable certifications for forest products to include certifications used by Georgia forest owners, which are the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, the American Tree Farm System, and the Forest Stewardship Council. Currently, the Sustainable Forest Management, as defined in 1992 by the United Nations Conference on Environmental and Development, requires a balance between meeting the forest resources needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to do the same. The SFI is the world's largest single forest certification standard by area, and the U.S. Green Building Council refuses to recognize it. The American Tree Farm System is the United States' oldest family forest certification program, established in 1941. This also recognizes the best practices that are taught in the state-funded institution of University of Georgia at the Warnell School of Forestry. Forest land to the forest owners is a legacy. They take pride in that land, and they protect and make sure that it's sustainable, and they are excellent stewards of that land. This bill basically adds fairness and even-handedness to the industry as a whole. And Mr. Speaker, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
You have some questions if you care to yield.
I'll yield for a couple.
Chair recognizes Representative Taylor, Representative Tom Taylor, to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Sir, if I have trees in my yard, should I excuse myself under the Chokus rule?
It depends on whether you harvest them for a profit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tom.
That's the only question you had now.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration to House Bill HB 255.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is a minority report. Chair recognizes Representative Buckner to speak to the minority report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I come in opposition to this bill, and it puts me in a really awkward position because I am a tree farmer, and I our tree farm is certified under the American Tree Farm System. The problem with this bill is not that I believe that any buildings that are built in the state of Georgia should be built out of Georgia forestry products. And in fact, that is already Georgia law. I also believe that we should not do something to enter into a battle in an industry that will harm other people in other industries. And what I mean by that is that we have roughly 6,800 people certified to do LEED certification and green building certifications across our state. Many of the buildings that are certified for the state of Georgia are in our state parks. And many of the people that come to our state parks actually choose to come there because they are LEED certified buildings. Now, LEED certification is not just about how the building is built. It includes water conservation, it includes being a sustainable building, it includes energy efficiency. And right here in Atlanta, down the road at Georgia Tech, they are training engineers to find ways to make the buildings in our state more sustainable constantly, and training young people to use those skills to build buildings that save all of our natural resources and use them all as effectively as possible. There is a problem in that LEED, an international organization, has selected to give credit to one of the 3 different types of forestry certifications. And the type forestry certification that they give the most credit to or the most points to is not one that many of our tree farmers choose to credit their timber under. And in fact, we don't on our farm. The Forest Stewardship Council is what they honor. But what's important for you to realize is that on a LEED point scale, you have 110 points. That tree certification is worth 1 point. If you get 40 points, you can be a LEED certified building. If you get 99 points, you can be a LEED certified building. What this bill does is take the governor's executive order, and quite frankly, it changes the wording, because in the executive order it says that the design, construction, operation, and maintenance of any new or expanded state building shall incorporate green building standards and give credit to only forest products that are, and it lists the 3 different ones. You have to be one of those 3. In the bill, however, it says shall use only those green building standards that give certification credits equally to those 3 building standards. That's a pretty significant change from the order. I am just very concerned that with this piece of legislation, although I strongly believe in supporting Georgia products, whether they're forestry or any other product, I don't think it's the right thing policy-wise for us to say we're going to support forestry over all the other people that are involved in the Green Building Initiative. That's 6,800 certified LEED only, and then there's the Green Building Initiative. that's got other people as well. It immediately discredits the 1,000 buildings in the state of Georgia that have LEED certification. There are ways to fix this. I tried to fix it in committee and I was not allowed to. The way to fix it is to say we are going to apply for LEED or any other green building initiative. We just aren't going to get in the middle of this industry fight, and we're not even going to ask for that wood credit. We just aren't going to ask for it because they don't recognize ours. It sends the message that everyone wants to send, but it keeps us out of the middle of the industry battle. And we continue to support the LEED and the other green building initiatives that mean so much in our state. I think that we should have state buildings that continue to be sustainable and be focused on green. Energy efficiency, water conservation, and using Georgia forestry products. I also think that we need to be careful with a policy like this that throws out the baby with the bathwater, blows off the hand of the child with the firecracker, or whatever you want to call it. We are not doing the right thing here if we say that we are going to not honor the Green Building Initiative because on the international level they aren't recognizing the type of forest certification that the majority of our tree farmers use. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions if there are any.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I do.
Chair recognizes Representative Kirby to your left for a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the lady yield?
Yes, sir.
Make sure I'm understanding this right. There is only 1 point of the 100 for the LEED certification that this affects, but you keep insinuating that our builders could not meet the 40 points needed for LEED certification without that one.
No, I didn't mean to give that impression. There's only 1 point given for the certification of wood by LEED. There are 110 points total. If you get 40 points from whatever reason, whether it's wood or whether it's energy efficiency, whether it's water conservation, or whether it's using Georgia timber and it's local and you get a point for using local products, if you get up to 40 points, then you get a LEED certification.
Will you yield for a follow-up?
Yes.
So if we pass this, somebody could still use the Georgia timber and qualify for LEED certification?
According to the way it reads, I'm not so sure. If you'll look at the bill on lines 29 through 31, it said that only standards shall be used that give certification credits equally to forest products grown, manufactured, certified under SFI, American Tree Farm, and Forestry Stewardship Council. And there's not a green building initiative that looks at all of them. So that throws LEED out, is the way I read it.
Mine doesn't have an and in there. So it would be, I read that as one of the three.
Well, it says all equally on line 30.
Thank you.
You have no further questions.
I ask that you would please consider voting no so that we can fix it and not hurt the LEED industry or the forest industry. And I appreciate your time and interest. Thank you. I yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. Chair now recognizes for the closing word the chair of the State Properties Committee, Chairman Barbara Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to yield the remainder of the time to the author of the bill. Thank you.
Lady has yielded to the author. Chair recognizes Chairman Chokas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you a little bit more detailed about what the LEEDS organization is doing to American forestry, Canadian forestry, and especially Georgia forestry. It gives a monopoly to the U.S. Green Building Council on determining good forest practices. Now, I have a lot of confidence in what's being taught at the Warnell School of Forestry at the University of Georgia. And those practices are sustainable, help create jobs, protect the land, protect the environment. It locks out a majority of responsible foresters in the state of Georgia. There's only 32,000 acres that are LEED certified. There's over 20 million acres of Georgia forest. It ignores the standard used by most Georgia foresters. It ignores the standards of the oldest certification in the country, the American Tree Farm the American Tree Farm Society system, American Tree Farm System. That's been established in 1941. It ignores the standards of the world's largest certifying association, and it hurts jobs in the United States and Georgia. The LEED certified forest, 60% of those that are certified come from outside the United States, and it doesn't promote the jobs that we have in this state. We've got a $29 billion industry, and at this time, I'd ask for your favorable consideration, but also like to relinquish the rest of my time to Chairman Earhart.
Gentleman has yielded the balance of the chair's time to Chairman Earhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I just felt compelled to come and talk to you just a little bit about LEED. I have significant professional knowledge of this organization and have dealt with this certification through hundreds of millions of dollars of state projects over the last 30 years, and I'm very familiar with them. And I also want to support probably the greatest vice chair in the House. It's also a chairman, but he's certainly a very thoughtful individual. Let me tell you about LEED certification and what you actually get for LEED. LEED is a good housekeeping seal of approval for the U.S. Green Buildings Commission. Generally, you're paying for a sticker or a nice little plaque in a sense, and it has nothing necessarily to do with sustainable design. Any first-year architect or engineer out of the Georgia Technical Institute or Southern Polytech or any other great engineering school can apply sustainable design standards, and those are good. That you do a cost-benefit analysis, and any reasonable person who builds a building is going to apply those. But why should we spend state dollars on an organization that is effectively a racket to get you a sticker so that you can do it? We've run it out of state procurement in Georgia. You don't spend money in the Regents system on LEED certification on buildings. We actually went so far as to create the Georgia Peach standards under the Georgia State Finance and Investment Commission on sustainable design. You can design sustainably without having to ask a bunch of green bureaucrats in D.C. for a sticker. I had the Georgia Institute of Technology do an analysis a couple years ago of how many of the 24 buildings they had just built on the Georgia Tech campus that met these LEED silver, gold, and platinum standards, and how many of them they actually got the stickers for. And then again, and tell me how much you paid for that certification, please. Well, we'd spent a couple $1 million on the certification for 4 of the buildings, but every single one of the 24 was designed to the same sustainable metrics and programs. It's an absurdity. We don't need to be paying for stickers to green bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. This is a great piece of legislation that protects Georgia's forestry industry. We don't need to be doing it in any of our state projects. We certainly don't need to spend state taxpayer dollars on stickers. Mr. Speaker, I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. Yielded the will. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? What purpose does Representative Duncan rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I'd ask to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. What purpose does Representative Williams rise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had a question for the author, but he's left the well.
He has. So why don't you go visit with him before you vote?
Thank you very much.
Now, Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 255 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 255. The ayes are 120. The nays are 44. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 20.
House Bill 20 by Representative Carson of the 46th, to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the imposition, rate, computation, and exemption from state income taxes. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Carson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hopefully this will be a little bit shorter. This is House Bill 20. Folks, this is the exact same bill as House Bill 683 from last year, which we voted with probably over 160 votes. Got delayed in the Senate, but what this bill does is in regard to low-income housing tax credits. And all this bill does is allow Georgia entities to allocate those credits to their partnership interests, regardless of the IRS or the federal income tax treatment of those entities, as long as the entities are validly formed under Georgia law and the members are valid owners under Georgia law. And it's not often that Greg Griffin's a good friend of mine, and it's not often that state auditors have great English, but I'm going to read his letter, read his sentence here in the fiscal note, and it says, as passage of the bill enables continuation of current allocations, it would neither increase nor decrease the amount of allocated credits that could be taken on Georgia returns. Basically saying this is revenue neutral, and what we're doing is codifying what is what we're trying to do in regard to making sure these partnership interests are valid under Georgia law without being subject to further IRS interpretation. And that's really the bill.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 20? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 20 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 20. The ayes are 161. The nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 277.
House Bill 277 by Representative Broderick of the 4th, being entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 48, the official code of Georgia annotated, relating to the imposition, rate, collection, and assessment of state sales and use taxes so as to value all flooring samples at the same rate for purposes of fair market value. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Broderick to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you today House Bill 277, which is an industry support bill. What this does is extend what the General Assembly did in 2008 as the way the use tax is applied to carpet samples. And what we're going to do is we're going to say that same 29% of the raw material value will be applied to all flooring samples. We just changed the word carpet to all flooring samples in the bill. And I brought an audiovisual aid to show you what we're talking about. Our flooring industry in Georgia is one of the major manufacturing industries that we have. It employs over 26,000 people with up to 75,000 people in support industries there. And I understand from the Port Authority that our flooring industry is one of the major exporters that we have for Georgia products. I would ask for your favorable consideration on this bill. Again, it just is creating a level playing ground as the way we treat use tax on samples, which actually have no retail or residual value. Mr. Speaker, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
You have no questions.
Thank you, and I would appreciate your favorable consideration, and I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 277? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 277 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 277. The ayes are 166. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 106. House Bill 106.
House Bill 106 by Representative Roberts, the 155th, to be entitled an act to amend Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to highways, bridges, and ferries, so as to devise what constitutes part of the state highway system. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Transportation, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Transportation Committee, Chairman Roberts, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I messed up the mic. I've been in here so much. House Bill 106 is the department's annual update bill. It's their housekeeping bill. I'm going to go through a few sections with you real quick to just kind of go over what we're doing in this piece of legislation. In Section 1 and 2, actually currently today, to be able to expend state or federal dollars, you can only do it on state-owned or if the state owns the right-of-way. So right now, currently what's happening to take place is for the state to go in and temporarily purchase some right-of-way or put it in their name to be able to expend those federal dollars. Then once they get through with it, they turn around and put it back in the county or the city's name. This just gives us the ability to do that and to cut down that level of bureaucracy. It also allows us in Section 3, and here I've had a couple of questions asked to me about this as far as the 30-year look-back period before they go in and dispose of property. Right now, currently, and still under this, the prior property owner has first right of refusal. But currently today, the way the law sits is they have to go back, it's in perpetuity. So in other words, they have to go back 100 years or whatever to be able to find that prior owner, and it may have changed multiple times through heirs and all. This gives them the ability to still go back to do that, but after 30 years, it gives them the ability, if they can't find all those heirs and all, they can go on and dispose of the property at the appraised value. It also allows them to be able to put it on the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, which gives them the ability to get more price for it, and it gives the state the ability to get more bang for their buck, so to speak. Right now, currently, they would just go out there and put up a for sale sign. This gives them the ability to hire an agent and to put it on that service. It also puts it back onto the tax rolls versus the state owning it at the state of Georgia. B of that actually takes it up to $75,000. This way that gives the department the ability to go in and negotiate the best possible price. Currently today, we have about 177 parcels of land that we have owned that we're trying to dispose of. It's about 1,200 acres total. This will get it off the state payroll again and get it back on to the local tax digests. As we move forward over to on line 118 to that section, this allows the GDOT to have some ability as local governments to utilize that real estate. Here again, we go back to that MLS system and talks about it giving the department the ability to be able to dispose of it. Section 4, basically right now, every time the federal government changes the new Highway Transportation Act, which is now MAP 21, and it has been different names in the past, we always have to go back in and update our code just to be able to make the change to that name. This just references federal code so that this point moving forward, we don't have to come back in and change the law every time they change the name of a new transportation bill. Then we get to Section 5. Section 5 it basically says that we have to transmit the crash data to the department in a timely manner and done through electronically. Currently today, as it's being transposed, you have some problems with individuals taking and incorrect data as they transpose just from a transposing error. This will have it submitted digitally, electronically, so that error does not occur, but it also is more in a timely manner. As most of you know, anytime you want to look at going in to put in another, possibly a red light or caution light or anything like that, you come to the department and talk to them and say, you know, we've had X number of wrecks or whatever. This gives them the ability to have that data collected quickly and to be able to have it before them when making those decisions. Mr. Speaker, that's the piece of legislation. I ask for your favorable consideration, and I'll try to yield for any questions if there are any.
You don't appear to have any.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration and yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 106 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 106, the ayes are 166, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 215. House Bill 215.
House Bill 215 by Representative Jacobs of the 80th, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to sales and use taxes, so as to provide for an additional exemption to the ceiling on local sales and use taxes which may be levied by a political subdivision. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jacobs to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you today House Bill 215. This bill came out of what was known as the Operations Task Force, which was a task force that was appointed by the interim CEO of DeKalb County, included 17 members that met between the last legislative session and this year's session. Those 17 members included legislators. It was bipartisan, Republican and Democrat, and North and South, all sections of DeKalb County. Senator Miller and I served on that task force. Representative Mitchell and some other members of this body did as well. What this bill, it dealt with various aspects of reform for DeKalb County. One of them was the homestead option sales tax, and that's the bill you have in front of you today. This bill is a compromise involving all DeKalb legislators. I can stand here in the well and tell you with assurance that every DeKalb legislator, Republican, Democrat, North, South, East, West, all sections of the county supports this bill, and here's what it does. The homestead option sales tax right now, which throws off about 100, and I'm sorry, DeKalb County is one of only 2 counties that has the homestead option sales tax, DeKalb and Rockdale, and this bill will affect only DeKalb County because it applies only to counties that have the homestead option sales tax and charge a sales tax for the purposes of a metropolitan area system of public transportation, the MARTA penny. The current sales tax throws off about $100 million in revenue, the host. That host is divided 80% of the revenues for homestead property tax relief and 20% for infrastructure capital funding. The homestead property tax relief applies only to the county government portions of your property tax bill. So if you reside in a municipality, you receive a lower benefit on your property tax bill than someone just like you who lives in the unincorporated sections of the county. The 20% then has a formula imposed on it that allows the cities to double dip for infrastructure funding in order to make up for the fact that their residents are not getting the benefit on their property tax bill, but that's a direct payment to the cities for infrastructure funding. Of the $20 million that 20% throws off, 6.5, I want you to listen to these numbers, 6.5 million currently goes to the city of Brookhaven, 6.5 million goes to the city of Dunwoody, 1.5 million goes to unincorporated DeKalb, which has 70% of the population, and the rest of DeKalb City's share in the balance. What we have decided to do in order to make all of this fair is to go to 100% host, and that's the equalized host that you have in the bill that's in front of you. Go to 100% host for homestead property tax relief, and for the first time, to apply that relief to just the same if you live in the unincorporated areas of the county or you live in a municipality. The upshot of that is a property tax cut in the municipalities in the hundreds of dollars. And if you own I have the figures right up here, if you own a $500,000 home, for example, in the city of Decatur, that is a $1,000 plus property tax cut in the city of Decatur if you own a house at that valuation. Then it does allow for the imposition of an 1/8 penny in DeKalb County, and I want to be clear that 2 jurisdictions presently have that. That's the city of Atlanta and Clayton County, both jurisdictions that are MARTA jurisdictions because we are handicapped in terms of bandwidth under the existing cap. That's where the infrastructure would come from. An 1/8 penny splost that would be divvied up on a per capita basis. The upshot of that is obviously for the county, they go up a lot from the 1.5 million they presently get out of host, but all of the cities come out ahead as well. And so you can see why this is a very finely worked out compromise between all legislators and among folks who represent unincorporated areas and the municipalities in DeKalb County. There is an amendment on your desk that Chairman Willard graciously offered in rules, but is also signed by myself and Representative Taylor. As you'll recall, in the transportation bill, we took host up to 1.25%. What the amendment does, and remember, host is used now 100% if we go with the arrangement in the bill. And one other thing I should say about the arrangement in the bill. Both of those referenda, the new host and the SPLOST, would have to pass on the ballot. The citizens of DeKalb County would have to agree to be taxed in this way in order for either of them to go into place. If one of those referenda fail, then all of it fails. But the amendment would peg the rate, the 1.25% that's in the transportation bill for host, to the new equalized host. This bill came out of Ways and Means before that change was made in the transportation bill. Now remember, host is going to be used under this bill 100% for homestead property tax relief. Again, this bill only affects DeKalb County. It has the support of every legislator from DeKalb County, and therefore, in respect for the work that we have done in our delegation, I would ask the House's favorable consideration of House Bill 215. Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions if there are any.
You have a question.
Certainly.
Chair recognizes Chairman Martin to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
I will.
Is it true that, did I understand the gentleman correctly to say that there are 8 pennies being collected in 2 jurisdictions that use MARTA today, those being Atlanta and Clayton County?
Correct.
And is it not also true that there are 2 additional jurisdictions that use MARTA today, that being DeKalb and Fulton County?
Correct.
Is it not true that as a legislator from Fulton County, I'm very concerned at the precedent this would cause, and the next folks that would be before us would be the Fulton County government asking for that 8th penny, which would be an increase to the taxpayers in North Fulton County? Except
that Fulton County did not adopt the homestead option sales tax, which basically takes another penny out of that bandwidth for property tax relief.
And that is it not true that Fulton County has that in the LOST, and that's what they use for property tax relief?
Again, Fulton County has a loss, but not a host. And because of the complexity of the formula we have imposed on host, this is the only way we are able to to solve that problem and make everybody whole. It brings it puts the property taxpayers out ahead, and it also puts each municipality in the county out ahead in terms of capital funding.
Would the gentleman yield for one further question?
I will.
Is host the same way for homestead exemption that LOST, in that the jurisdictions have to use it to roll back, but they don't have to roll back the net millage rate? They can in fact increase the gross millage, increase the LOST or host rollback, and the taxpayers actually pay the same. Isn't that true?
The county can increase its millage rate and each municipality, but I mean the reality is, though, Representative Martin, whereas and I know that there's always a back and forth between the municipalities and the county and Fulton County over loss negotiations, but the reality is that as a resident of a city, and Representative Taylor as a resident of a city, does not get the same benefit on his property tax bill because of host, and this solves that problem in a big way for residents of the municipality.
Last question, if the gentleman will yield.
I will.
Is it possible for you to make that correction without adding another penny?
No, it is not.
And could the gentleman share, this will be the last question, I'll sit down. Can the gentleman share with me why you cannot just change the way host is allocated without adding another penny?
Then you lose the only way to do that would be to lose the infrastructure funding altogether, which is also something that would not be supported supported by the local governments in DeKalb County. Again, this is a compromise among all the DeKalb County legislators. We worked very hard at it between the sessions, and I do appreciate the gentleman's sentiment, but once again, we have reached an agreement, and I would appreciate the House's favorable consideration. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is an amendment. The clerk will read the caption to the amendment.
Willard of the 51st offers the following amendment, AM 340692.
Is there any objection to adopting the Willard amendment? Is there objection? Chair hears none, and the Willard amendment is adopted. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute as amended? The chair hears none. The committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 215 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 215, the ayes are 128, the nays are 35. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Bill 16 will be continued until the next legislative day. House Bill 89 will be continued until the next legislative day. House Bill 476 will be postponed until the next legislative day. House Bill 514 will be postponed to the next legislative day. House Bill 515 will be postponed to the next legislative day, and House Bill 520 will be postponed to the next legislative day. The clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions. We will be doing page photographs at the rostrum immediately upon adjournment. If you need to make an announcement and have not signed up, the time to do so is now.
Commending, recognizing the 10th anniversary of the Southwest Campus of the Medical College of Georgia. Commending D&J Plastics, Inc. on their expansive growth. Commending the Atlanta Job Corps Center, congratulating the JAR Corps on the grand occasion of its 50th anniversary, and recognizing March 24, 2015 as Job Corps Day at the State Capitol. Commending the Georgia Rural Health Association and recognizing March 11, 2015 as Rural Health Day at the State Capitol and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. What purpose does Chairman Weldon rise? What purpose does Chairman Weldon rise?
For the purpose of making a motion,
State your motion.
move that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended so that a rule can be read and assigned to committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
Unnumbered House Bill LC 296432 by Representative Weldon III to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 11 of Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to offenses against public order so as to change the offense of harassing phone calls to the offense of harassing communications.
On the motion of the gentleman that the rules of this House be temporarily suspended to allow a bill to be read for the first time and assigned to committee, is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Judiciary non-civil. Chair recognizes Chairman Ron Stevens for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, tomorrow morning we're going to do a walking tour of the Beltline. The bus will pick you up at 8:30 in the morning. Wear comfortable shoes. Tomorrow afternoon at 5:30, the bus will pick you up for the tour of SCAD for its film and animation and dinner theater to follow. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, the Coastal Caucus will meet at 2 p.m., room 341. The Coastal Caucus, 2 p.m., 341, discuss the buffer bill. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the House Insurance Committee, Chairman Smith, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Insurance Committee, the full committee, will meet tomorrow at 11 o'clock in CLOB, 11 o'clock. 606.
Chair recognizes the chairman of the Majority Caucus, Chairman Hatchett, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Majority Caucus will meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock in 341. The Majority Caucus is meeting tomorrow, which is Tuesday, at 1 o'clock in room 341. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Energy, Utilities, and Telecommunications Committee was scheduled to meet this afternoon at 3 o'clock. That meeting has been changed. We will not have the meeting today. However, we will be having it tomorrow on Tuesday from 2 o'clock to 3, or at 2 o'clock, and 403 here in the Capitol, room 403 at the Capitol, in the Capitol, at 2 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Rice for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House Motor Vehicles DMVS Subcommittee will meet upon adjournment. That'll be the Tesla bill. You'll want to be there for that. The parties have reached agreement. There'll be a full committee meeting right after that to take up the three bills we see on the calendar. And then on a brighter note, Wednesday morning, 7:15, House Legislative Fellowship, the Legislative Fellowship, the Senate and House will meet upstairs in 417, and Representative Brockway will be bringing the devotional. See you there.
Chair recognizes Chairman Randy Nix for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committee will meet immediately upon adjournment in 415 in CLOB. We do have one piece of legislation, so please come 415 CLOB immediately upon adjournment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carl Rogers for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Higher Education Committee will meet tomorrow, March the 10th at 2 p.m. and 5:15 to take up one bill, and that will be House Bill 54. Also, just a reminder of the electrical vehicle ride and drive will be here Wednesday at Liberty Square between 11 and 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Maxwell for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Regulated Industries will meet tomorrow at 11:30 in 506 CLOB. All regulated industry members, thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Darlene Taylor for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the members of the Insurance, Life, and Health Subcommittee, we will be having a meeting today at 4 p.m. in room 514 CLOB. That's the Subcommittee on Health. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Pack for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The full Committee of Judiciary and Non-Civil will be meeting at 3 o'clock in room 132, Capitol. We have 2 bills. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Tom Taylor for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There will be a Regulation Subcommittee of the Regulated Industries meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30 in room 514 CLOB. Again, that's Regulation Subcommittee of Regulated Industries, 10:30, 514 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Buddy Harden for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Environmental Quality Subcommittee of Natural Resources and Environment will meet Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cooper for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Health and Human Services, the full committee, will meet today. We have a committee in front of us, so we will start gathering at 3:30 outside 606 in the CLOB. If you know somebody on Chairman Rice's committee, hurry them along to their committee as soon as we are adjourned, and maybe we'll get in sooner. So, Health and Human Services start gathering at 3:30, 606. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Henson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. DeKalb delegation, we need to have a quick meeting, very quick, in the anteroom immediately upon adjournment or now.
Chair recognizes Chairman McCall for an announcement.
In the morning in 216 is the annual Cattlemen's Association Steak Biscuit Breakfast. Starts at 7 o'clock if y'all want to get up and eat a steak biscuit.
Chair recognizes Chairman Pruitt for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. State Planning and Community Affairs will meet in the morning at 4:03 at 9 o'clock.
Chair recognizes Chairman Burns for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Game Fishing Parks will meet in the morning at 8 a.m. in room 403 here in the Capitol.
Chair recognizes Representative Harbin for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, the subcommittees of Ways and Means will meet in the same order of which they were sent out earlier, but they will begin upon adjournment at 3 o'clock
with Sales Tax Subcommittee in room 133. Then they will meet in order upon the adjournment of each subcommittee. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Fleming for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, Chairman Willard, the House Judiciary Committee has asked me to announce that his full Judiciary Committee will meet in the Judiciary Committee room 132 upon adjournment. The Fleming Subcommittee will meet after the House Judiciary Committee has met. And, that's room 515 CLOB. Full Judiciary will meet in 515 CLOB and the Fleming Subcommittee after that. Thank you.
The chair would like for you to help me wish happy birthday today. And Chairman Reinders is selling buttons, I understand, in honor of the birthday of Chairman Richard Smith. Happy birthday, Chairman Smith. Chair recognizes Chairman Weldon for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen. The Juvenile Justice Committee meeting scheduled for this afternoon has been canceled. We will meet tomorrow, room 506 CLOB, from 2 to 4 o'clock. You'll get a notice by email and on your desk. Well, not tomorrow, but I guess this is your notice. So tomorrow, room 506 CLOB, 2 to 4. Thank you.
That completes our announcements and completes the business to come before the House today. I know that there are committees meeting all afternoon and into the early evening. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move we now stand in recess until 5 p.m. today, at which time we shall adjourn until Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., March the 11th, 2015.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House stand in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. today, at which time we would be adjourned until Wednesday, March 11, 2015 at 10 o'clock a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. All those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be in recess until 5 o'clock p.m. today, and then we'll be adjourned until Wednesday morning at 10 a.m.